So thank you so much for coming, all our advocates, our allies, legislators, members of the press. This is a CT Adapt Overlooked No More press conference. We chose the theme of Overlooked No More because so often we are fighting to get bills raised, but we're passed over for those that are deemed more important or serve more people. And we're told to wait until next year or next session, and then next year or next session comes and we're waiting again. The only time it seems that we have eyes on us is when budgets need to be made, funding needs to be cut, and we are the first on the chopping block. As you'll hear about today with the speakers, especially regarding community first choice. A friend and fellow advocate of mine, Valerie, could you raise your hand?
Yeah.
Over there.
I'm the one in the green hat.
Yeah. So she said, I'm stealing her line, she said that we should not be reduced to line items on a budget. And that's how it feels sometimes. We've got the state, we've got insurance companies on one side, and they're looking at us saying, how much is this costing us? And on the other side, we've got big business and private equity firms, and they're saying, ooh, how much money can I make off of this? And we're just stuck in the middle, and we get dismissed, we get disregarded, and we get dropped. And we, oh, sorry. We just want to live our lives as independently as possible, just like everybody else. And so we say no more. So leading this charge, I'd like to introduce you to our first speaker. She's the leader and founder of this chapter of ADAPT, Maryann Langton, and she's going to talk to us about what ADAPT is and what we are doing. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming. This is very exciting. I am very honored to read the paper report.
Maryann said, thank you very much for coming. This is very exciting. I asked Patty Ellis to read the paper we both wrote. It is an honor to introduce the newly formed Connecticut ADAPT, which is made up of people with disabilities and friends. Connecticut ADAPT is a chapter of the National ADAPT organization. We, as the national organization, fight for the civil liberties of people with disabilities by advocating before governmental agencies, networking with organizations, and engaging in nonviolent direct action. All these strategies are used to ensure the civil and human rights of people with disabilities to live in freedom. Connecticut ADAPT has agreed to work on various legislation as well as supporting the quality of life of people in nursing homes. Connecticut ADAPT felt it was necessary to come together because many disability bills that have been enacted need to be strengthened in order to be effective. Even more problematic, many disability concerns have not been addressed at all during the past legislative sessions. Bills related to health care, housing, and services have been put on the back burner for too long, and the lives of people with disabilities have been sidelined. We are frustrated with sitting back and losing important bills that would empower our lives. You will hear about various issues that we will work on during this session. We look forward to working with you, but we are not afraid to advocate for our rights and human dignity. Thank you.
Some of our greatest allies in legislation come from the Human Services Committee, and I would like to introduce to you Representative Jillian Gilchrist. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Oh, thank you. Oh, that's okay. Good afternoon. So good to be here with you all today. Thank you so much for coming to the legislature time and time again and for your advocacy, because it truly is your work that educates us, lets us know what needs to happen, and motivates us to make change. As co-chair of the Human Services Committee, we've had one public hearing so far. We will be having 2 more, and so there are many topics that will be raised in the Human Services Committee. I have the good privilege of chairing that committee with Senator Matt Lesser, and many of the folks behind us serve on that committee. We also co-chair the subcommittee on appropriations for Human Services, which covers the Department of Social Services and the Department of Developmental Services. And so I know top of mind is Community First Choice. And that proposal, quite frankly, at this point in time, is not well thought out. And until there actually is a plan, I don't know why or how we would move forward with a cut to that program, because hearing from so many of you, it's what gives you your independence in the community. And your testimony has illustrated how vitally important that is to your physical well-being, your mental health, and to all of us, because I love having you all in the community and learning from you, and folks should have the opportunity to live together. And so please know that you have allies in us. We are making sure that this process unfolds the way it should unfold, where decisions are made based on your input and your guidance. And so we still have time. I know it can be very overwhelming when that budget got released, but we are working to ensure that you continue to have the rights that you deserve and that you need. So thank you so much, and so happy to be here with you all today.
Thank you, Representative Gilchrist. And now I will introduce Senator Matt Lesser, also co-chair of the Human Services Committee.
Yay!
Thank you so much. And it's great to see so many friends and incredible advocates up here. You have been wonderful partners, allies with us on the fight, because on the Human Services Committee, we know that healthcare is a right, not a privilege. And I have to tell you that the state of Connecticut is in the unenviable position of picking up the pieces. We saw last year in Washington, the president and his allies in Congress passed a budget, which is a statement of their values, that slashed funding for the Medicaid program by $1 trillion. Now, they didn't do that to provide health care for other folks or to build parks and wonderful things for the American people. No, instead, they used that money to pocket it for the tax breaks for some of the richest people in the world. And we know why Medicaid is so important, because it's not, it's about a lot of things. It's about 40% of the kids in the state. It's about seniors in long-term care settings, and it is about people with disabilities. Over 2/3 of people with disabilities in Connecticut rely on Husky, on our state's Medicaid program, and we have to protect it. We have to stand up and protect it. Part of that is a statement of what we're going to be doing in the state budget this year. Now, I got to say that even before the federal attacks on healthcare, we were not doing right by people with disabilities. We had more work to do, and that is why it is overdue that we do something about Husky C income and asset limits, that we bring them up, because people with disabilities should not be second-class citizens in this country. And we know... And we know that more bad actions are coming down from the federal government. And we know that they are not done hurting the people of this state, and that is why in the Human Services Committee last week we are brought forward, and it just came out yesterday, a new bill that will codify in state law the protections of the Americans with Disabilities Act. We will make sure that you will be protected no matter what comes down from Washington. I share, Jillian mentioned the Community First Choice program. All I can say is we should not be stepping back in any way, shape, or form from our commitment for people with to people with disabilities, that we should not be reinstitutionalizing folks, putting people back into nursing homes who do not need to be there. We should do whatever we can to make sure that we're supporting folks in the community with the resources and the supports that you need to be successful, to live your lives, to take care of one another. And I see a lot of folks who are in wheelchairs, and Connecticut is leading the country right now, making sure that we have strong accountability measures on those wheelchair companies to make sure that you get timely repairs. The people who need to go places can get places because you can get your wheelchairs replaced. And we're going to make sure that we have additional legislation to expand that this legislative session. You know, there's a difference of opinion out there. There are folks who say, look, this is an election year, we can't do much, let's get out of Dodge, and let's come back next year and fix things. But there are folks out there who need state support, who need state help now, who need health care this year. And you cannot go to a doctor and say, come back next year. You got to take the health care you need when you need it. And so let's get this done. We only have about, 8.5 weeks to go in this legislative session. We've got an awful lot of work to do. I'm happy to work with my colleagues here. We've got some great members of the legislature here. Let's get to work. Let's get this done. Let's put the dollars in and make the investments in human beings that need to be made. Thank you very much.
And with me, I have Representative Mike D'Amico, and he's just going to introduce you to the legislature we have here today.
Thanks, Maureen. Thank you to my colleagues, Matt and Jillian, who just spoke so eloquently. I just wanted to take a minute to introduce and acknowledge and thank some of my colleagues from the legislature who have joined us here today. So we have State Representative Bill Heffernan from West Haven, and one of the newest members of the legislature, State Representative Iris Sanchez from New Britain, and State Representative Ann Hughes from everywhere, and State Representative Lucy Dathan from Norwalk and New Canaan. There we go. Okay. So I will turn it back over to Maureen, and I just wanted to thank all of you for being here today and all of you for all your advocacy efforts. You guys are great, and you're getting greater every day, and we're going to move this along. So thank you.
If you have been paying attention to what's going on with Community First Choice, you may have heard of Sandy Roberts, and she's going to come up here and share her story and how Community Choice affects her.
And I'm currently a resident in a nursing home in Granby, Connecticut. And honestly, I'm very scared right now. I was stunned when I learned that Governor Ned Lamont is doing away with Community First Choice. I have been in the nursing home now for 2 years, and I have been waiting to get out of the nursing home. I've had a lot of obstacles with my health, with finding housing, and making sure that all my needs will be met when I do move to the apartment. I hope to be getting there in the next month or two. I'm just waiting for some renovations to be done on the apartment. There are currently 7,250 people in the state of Connecticut who are eligible and are on Community First Choice. In order to qualify for Community First Choice, your needs have to meet the standards of being in a nursing home. So, because it's an entitlement instead of a waiver, people do not have to wait for the services through Community First Choice. And other waivers currently have long waiting lists to get onto them. some up to 5 years or more are waiting to get on to the waivers. So I strongly encourage that Governor Lamont keep community first choice in the budget. Many times when you're in a nursing home, you have to wait. That's one of the things I've truly learned in the nursing home. You wait for the care that you need. So if you have to go to the bathroom, or if you've gone to the bathroom on yourself, then you are sitting there maybe for another hour because they're short of staff. Unfortunately, this leads many times to neglect. Case in point, the 93-year-old woman who was in a nursing home in Windsor Locks and wandered outside and literally was outside on the coldest night of the year for 3 hours before anyone noticed she had left the nursing home. I really hope that this does not turn into a similar situation. I used to be on Community First Choice before I went into the nursing home. I had been on the PCA waiver, and I had a knee replacement done, and this changed my care needs. Prior to the knee replacement, I could stand up, and it would only take one aide to help me. Once I had the knee replacement, it would no longer hold my body weight, so I could no longer stand or walk. And because of this, I have to be dressed laying down in bed. Because I do not bend at the waist, I can't even sit up. So the aides, I have 2 aides, and they literally roll me back and forth to get dressed and take care of some of my other personal needs. And plus 2 people are there when I'm hoyered into my wheelchair for safety. I was paying out of pocket on the PCA waiver for the second aide. With the Community First Choice, they were allowing me to have 2 aides there at the same time, and they could overlap hours. And this is going to be a similar case when I leave the nursing home. So this is why it is so critical for the care needs of people with disabilities. Thank you so much for listening to me.
Thank you, Sandy. I will just point out for everyone's benefit that the governor proposes, but it's the legislature that disposes. So stay tuned on Community First Choice.
Patty Ellis with Connecticut Adapt, and she is going to share a little bit about Community First Choice.
Where are you?
She's coming.
Don't get nervous, Maryann. It's going to be okay.
I'm going to share something, a piece which was written by our group Connecticut Adapt. Imagine saying goodbye to your home. Imagine only being able to pick out a car full of items to take with you. Imagine you now live in a nursing home. Imagine having to share a room with 2, 3, or even 4 people because the facility is overcrowded. Imagine being stuck in bed all day because there is not enough staff to assist you. Imagine being forced to wear a diaper, or worse, being forced to be incontinent because there is not enough staff to assist you. Imagine eating nursing home food every day. Imagine looking out your window, now onto a parking lot. Imagine having a speech challenge and trying to have a conversation with a person who cannot understand you. So they just nod their head, or maybe walk away in the middle of the conversation. Imagine having to go to bed at 4 p.m. because there is not enough staff to assist you. Imagine being institutionalized for the simple crime of having a disability. Now imagine that this scene never had to happen if you are not a part of eliminating Community First Choice. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Patty. And we thank all of you for your support in helping us with the fight against eliminating community first choice. And speaking of imagine you're going to a doctor's office and you can't get onto the exam table. Tiffany McDonald from Citizens Coalition of Equal Access is going to speak about medical accessibility.
A few months ago, I had an appointment for an endoscopy at a large medical facility in Connecticut. Several days before the procedure, I called and requested a lift to help me transfer. When I got there was no lift. And when I asked they said they couldn't provide one. So while I was still in an exam room, waiting for them to be transferred to the stretcher to the OR, they gave me anesthesia. And I wasn't feeling good at all. And I kept warning the staff. They brought a recovery chair to try to help me to feel better. But when the two nurses tried to transfer me into the chair, they dropped me on the floor. They eventually got me into the chair, but I still was feeling poorly. They transferred me to another room and made me sit there for about 10 to 15 minutes. I would have been more comfortable if I had my own wheelchair, but it wasn't available. Eventually, 4 medical personnel arrived with a stretcher and again tried to transfer me manually without a lift. Again, they dropped me on the floor. At that point, I was in considerable pain, so they brought me to the emergency room to perform the endoscopy. The whole experience was horrible, very frightening, and painful.
Thank you for sharing that story, Tiffany. And just to let you know, we were not able to raise legislation this session for lift legislation. So we're going to have, unfortunately, probably have more incidences like this. It's very common. Next up, we have Isabella Cipollone. She is the co-chair of a disability interest group at UConn Medical School of Medicine. Sorry about that. And she worked with Citizens Coalition for Equal Access on a couple of task force for medical accessibility, lift legislation, and accessible scales, accessible exam tables. So thank you, Isabella. Is she? Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry. Blind spot.
Good afternoon. My name is Isabella Cipollone. I'm a rising third-year medical student in the state of Connecticut. But more importantly, I'm the big sister to Francesca Cipollone. Francesco is a spunky 21-year-old who was born with a rare brain disorder called cerebellar vermis hypoplasia. Basically, this means that my brother is profoundly disabled. He can't walk, he can't talk, he's dependent on someone else to help him with almost every aspect of his life. Although Francesco's personality shines regardless of this diagnosis, it has forced him to approach the world a lot differently than you and I. Francesco did not ask to be in this situation, and the world was certainly not built to accommodate him. There have been times when my parents and I have had to carry his wheelchair up a flight of stairs because the building we're entering does not have an adequate ramp. Or my parents and I have had to lift and wiggle Francesco's wheelchair to fit through a narrow doorway. At this point in my family's lives, we've come to expect this of restaurants and older buildings. But it's a bit jarring when these accessibility barriers are still found in the medical setting. From my family's experience, there are rarely mechanical lifts available to transfer my brother from his wheelchair to the examination table. Whether that means the clinical staff are not adequately trained to use these lifts, or the lifts are non-functional, the pressure usually falls on my parents to transfer him. We talk about ADA compliance, but in the real world, there are so many places that being in a wheelchair causes unbelievable obstacles. As a medical student, I have the privilege of not only looking at accessibility from a big sister lens, but now with the clinical perspective and an emphasis on population health. For an individual with a physical disability, everyday life is challenging enough. Now add heightened anxiety if there's a health-related situation that requires being in a medical environment. Yet, we're not providing the tools to offer a proper physical examination for an individual confined to a wheelchair. How are we making sure that the clinical environment is safe, provides the patient with the utmost care, and also maintains their dignity? In my future profession, my goal is to provide the highest standard of quality, equitable care. But it'll be difficult to accomplish that when our attempts to put forward legislation that offers equitable lift access is repeatedly not made a priority. Why does it always seem like the needs of individuals with disabilities are not made a priority? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Good job.
Thank you so much, Isabella. Next up, we have Representative Lucy Dathan from the Human Services Committee, and she is the chair of the Government Oversight Committee, and she is going to tell us about supported decision-making. Thank you, Lucy.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's wonderful to be here and wonderful to be surrounded by so many people that care about the needs of people in the IDD community. My name is Lucy Dathan. I represent Norwalk and New Canaan, and I'm here today to talk a little bit about supported decision-making. And I've been working with a great group of advocates over the last sort of 9-10 months or so, and we have been talking a lot about making sure that we can have supported decision-making explicit in our statutes. Right now it's implicit. You could have an agreement, but will it be recognized when you go to the doctor, to the bank, or any other service that you need to do? And this bill is going to recognize supportive decision-making as an alternative form of guardianship or conservatorship. I'm really looking forward to our public hearing, which is next Tuesday. This is Bill 5485. It'll be heard in the Human Services Committee, and I want to thank the leadership of that committee for bringing this bill forward, because it really was a full group effort and many people were really involved. Please feel free to testify, whether it's written, whether it is in person, whatever you can do. We would love to hear from you, maybe how it's worked for you and your families, or how you envision this might help people going forward. So just wanted to say thank you so much, and thank you for giving me a moment to speak about this.
Thank you, Representative. And next, we have Molly Cole, Executive Director of the State Independent Living Council, and she's part of SAVE CFC, and she's also going to speak about supported decision-making.
Hi, everybody. I'm Molly Cole. I direct the Connecticut State Independent Living Council, and our focus is really on ensuring that people in Connecticut understand the rights of individuals to live independently in the community, that they have awareness, and that there are policies that support that. And quite frankly, as you can see here today, this is a challenge for all of us. The SILC, as we are known, has really been focused on supported decision-making, and one of the reasons for that is, let me just take you back for a minute. If you are a person with a disability, perhaps an intellectual disability, perhaps not, and you go into a court, into probate court, within a matter of minutes, your rights can be gone. Like the ability to decide where you live, what you do, where you worship, what health care you get, and in some instances even when you die. This is what guardianship does. We're not saying that guardianship is not appropriate for some individuals. It absolutely is. We are not advocating for the removal of guardianship as an option, but we are asking for the ability for people with disabilities who can make their own choices to be allowed to do that, to pick a few supporters who can help you make decisions when you need them, just like anybody else. If you need to buy a car, I don't know anything about cars. If I needed to buy a car, I would be asking somebody to tell me about a car. That's supported decision making. We do it, all of us do it every day. And yet we deny that right to so many people with disabilities. And let me end by just saying, there are 30 states that have recognized supported decision making. For whatever reason, Connecticut has not chosen to do that. We're hoping, with the help of great advocates like Rep. Dathan, who has really been wonderful with us on this topic, that we can make that happen this year. This is our time. Silk has been working with a coalition for a number of years now to try and get this done. Let's get it over the finish line this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Molly Cole. And now someone to let us know that sometimes ADA compliant does not mean accessible, wheelchair accessible. And I have Suzanne Garaffa here. She is with Citizens Coalition for Equal Access, CT Adapt, and Suzanne Fights for Change. And she's going to talk about accessible housing.
Nice and loud.
Oh, believe me, I can be loud.
Good.
Hi, my name is Suzanne Graff, and like Maureen said, I'm part of ADAPT. I'm also part of CC Café, and I'm also Suzanne Fights for Change. I'm going to have Ruth Gorby read my testimony for me. Thank you very much. Thanks, Ruth.
You're so welcome, Suzanne. Speaking for Suzanne dictated this to me. I live in a newly built, affordable apartment complex in the community. I was told that the complex was accessible when I applied to live there. But once I moved in, I found many problems. Even though the landlord was willing to put bars in the bathroom and shower to accommodate me, there are permanent features in the apartment that cannot be moved. For example, the aisle between the island in the kitchen and the refrigerator and the stove area is so narrow that I cannot get my wheelchair through, and I cannot open the refrigerator door. There is also not enough room for my wheelchair to turn and face the sink so that I can do the dishes. When it comes to the sink in the bathroom, there is a cabinet underneath it. So there is no room for me to get my legs under in order to use the sink. Another problem is that the door to the pantry opens out into a very narrow space, and I cannot get my wheelchair past the open door in order to get into the pantry. It would be much better to have pocket doors throughout the apartment rather than doors that open out. Affordable housing bills should stipulate that any new construction meet the standards of human-centered design. In addition, they should mandate tours of the construction site by knowledgeable people with disabilities as the construction proceeds. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Let's see if it works.
Next up, we have Sheldon Taubman. He is an attorney with District Rights, Connecticut.
Disability rights.
Oh my gosh, Disability Rights, Connecticut, and Save CFC. And he's going to talk about Husky C, Medicaid, and the income and asset limits and discrimination against the disabled community. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go off script here. Sorry, Maureen. The answer to the question about community first choice ending, putting people back into nursing homes is, don't worry, the people already on it, their 7250 will be taken care of. They'll be taken care of somehow. We're not sure, but some kind of plan. The future people, oh, that's a different story. They're going to have a waiting list. Right now, there's no waiting list. It's an entitlement. There's going to be a waiting list. And what does that cause? It necessarily causes discriminatory rationing. And what's the plan for discriminatory rationing? The Commissioner of Social Services testified on February 18th clearly what the plan is. This will allow us to give priority to people with a, quote, lower level of need compared to people with a higher level of need. That's the discriminatory plan for rationing that will necessarily result for all the future people. And I'm guessing people here don't just care about people who need services right now, they also care about the future.
Yes.
Okay, I've gone off script, I'm sorry. Now I'll talk about Husky C. Yes, I'm a lawyer, but what I'm about to say is about the law, but you don't need to be a lawyer to appreciate this. Our state constitution governs 3 branches of government: the governor, the legislature, and the courts. Right now, Husky C versus the other Husky programs expressly discriminate on the basis of disability as follows. The big three Medicaid programs are Husky A, C, and D. Husky A and D have no asset limits. Husky C has an asset limit that hasn't moved in 50 years. $1,600. That's it for a single. $2,400 if you're married. Wow. And so you have to be in poverty to get on Medicaid if you are elderly, 65 or older, or totally disabled, Social Security definition, right? Doesn't stop there though. Husky A and D have an income limit of 138% of the federal poverty level. What is that? Right now it's $1,836. It went up on March 1st. What is it for people with disabilities and seniors? Oh, sorry, for them it's only $1,397. So the discrimination is directly quantified as follows. $439 a month. You have less money. You can have less money and if you want to be on Medicaid if you're elderly or disabled. How is this fair? Of course it's not fair. But is it illegal? Yes. The state constitution expressly provides in Article 1, Section 20, that the state may not discriminate on the basis of a bunch of things, including race, but also physical or mental disability, expressly. Everybody has known about this. For years we've been coming up here saying, this is discrimination. Obviously, something has to be done about it. Well, because nothing was done about it, in April, my colleagues at Disability Rights Connecticut, as well as the Yale Medical Legal Partnership, brought a case on behalf of two people who are being directly discriminated against on the basis of income, on the basis of disability, because of their income. They have an income amount that clearly qualifies for Medicaid if they were not disabled, either Husky A or D. But because they're disabled, totally disabled, sorry, they have a lower income limit and they're over it and they're not able to get on it. So we brought a lawsuit about it, but lawsuits take years. And here's the thing. The Constitution applies to all three branches of government. It's not okay for the governor to say, or the legislature to say, well, let the courts sort it out. Yes, they might. It'll take a few years. And in the meantime, are people going to be forced into nursing homes, even if CFC is there, because they just don't have low enough income? It's time to put an end to this, and the excuse that, well, we just don't have the money. You know, I mean, there's different estimates. I know that the official Office of Fiscal Analysis gives a different figure than we have. Our estimates have generally been around $16 million to fix the income discrimination completely, some more to fix the asset limit completely. But I understand there's a large surplus. I understand that there are fiscal guardrails that some people don't want to move. The bottom line is the legislature and the governor are bound by the state constitution, and it's not okay to say we can disregard a clear constitutional mandate because we're not the courts. Now I'd like to turn it over to somebody else.
Thank you, Sheldon. And unless he's going to go off script to Rick Famiglietti, he is from the Center for Disability Rights and Save CFC, and he is also going to talk about Husky C and his efforts to remove discrimination. Thank you, Rick.
Nice and loud, Rick.
Good afternoon. My name is Rick Famiglietti. I live in East Haven, Connecticut, and I work for the Center for Disability Rights for 26 years. When I was 14 years old, I was always working. Not that it might have been under the table, but when I was able to be working legally, I started working at 16. I went to a trade school, became a tool and die maker. I had a full-time job, and paying taxes. And at the age of 20, I had a motorcycle accident and broke my leg. And that's why I'm in the wheelchair here today. For 15 years, my income was roughly $900 a month from Social Security disability and a disability benefit from my employer. At that time, in 1985 to 1990, I had to spend down my income for Medicaid at that time. I don't think it was called Husky C back then. But I had to spend $300 a month down over the course of 6 months. That's $1,800 for a deductible before Medicaid will pay anything. I had an issue with Medicaid with a spend down. And with the assistance of Sheldon Coleman and the Reagan Legal Assistance, we appealed the decision and won. I then got connected with, I think it was called the Connecticut Women with Disabilities. It was an organization, disability organization, that introduced legislation for the Medicaid Working Disabled Program. 2 years later, I started working, that was 2000, I started working for the Center for Disability Rights. Just to backtrack a little bit, I did, through Bureau of Rehab Services, after my accident, I got an associate's degree in mechanical engineering, which I could not use. Because if I went to work, my spend down would just be higher. The more money I work, the higher my spend down. So I pretty much avoided work, and BRS wasted a lot of money. In 2000, we got it passed, and I started working for the Center for Disability Rights in October of 2000. Now, I'm 61 years old, and I'm ready to retire, or I have been declining over the last 5 years, and I might have to stop working. The minute I do, I'm going to be over that income limit that Sheldon I just told you about. And the asset limit. The very next day I stop working. Why put all of these programs in to get people with disabilities to go back to school, go to work, tease you with the MedConnect of this awesome income and asset limit, only to punish you when you stop working either for retirement or because you have to. I don't understand why I worked for the last 26 years. In the past, you've seen me very angry in my testimonies and emotional, wanting to beat up on the governor. Today I was asked to play nice. So let's see if that works. I trust our human services and some of our other legislators in different committees, but I don't think there's enough of them in order to step up and step in front of the governor and say, hey, you can't do this. I'm also in favor of ending community first choice. I'm sorry, not in favor of ending community first choice. Because, as my good friend Jonathan Sigerwood said the other day, you able-bodied people might need it too.
That's right.
Yeah.
You can step out, fall, and break your face.
That's right.
The other thing is, and this is going to be my last comment, the governor in his budget proposal, on the same page of where he's saying he wants to get rid of community first choice, says he wants to give single people earning less than or up to $200,000 a year a $200 tax rebate if and only if you filed Connecticut income tax. And I think the year was 23 or 2024. That, and by the way, if you have more than one in your family, it's $400,000 income for the year, and you're going to get a $400 rebate. If you're disabled on disability and you have to file income tax, you get shit. These are the people who need the money more. Quite frankly, my small salary for working for a nonprofit, if he gave me $200, which by the way I would be eligible, it doesn't make a dent in my issue. It's going to make me go buy a toy. Multiply 200 conservatively by the amount of taxpayers we have in Connecticut and fund community first choice, and fix Husky C. Thank you.
Good job.
You, Rick.
Nice mic drop. All right, so we now have a topic very near and dear to my heart, which is wheelchair repair. I'm going to bring up Joe Short from Independence Northwest, and he also serves on the Wheelchair Repair Advisory Council, and he's going to let us know what we are working on with wheelchair repair and a little, I guess, some stories, I guess.
Okay.
Yep.
Good afternoon. I'm going to start off by going a little off script as well. Sorry. I've been an advocate at Independence Northwest now for going on 15 years, and I've been helping individuals sign up for Community First Choice for many years. It's really one of the only options. And I got to say honestly, in the last week alone, I've been contacted by two individuals. One was a parent of a young kid that just got recently discharged from Gaylord, who's a C4 quadriplegic, and he was sent home with no home care services. It's only his mother and father doing and they're burnt out. They need assistance. And the other person that contacted me this past week was an elderly mother who has a daughter that has cerebral palsy, who needs a lot of assistance at home, and for her whole entire life she's had her parents taking care of her that are getting elderly and can no longer do it. Both of these instances, I told them, I can help you apply for Community First Choice, but I have no idea what's going to happen with your application. I have no idea what's going to happen with this legislation. If it passes, your children are going into a nursing home. And it was really sad. Anyway, I just needed to share that story. Now I'm going to get on with wheelchair repairs. My name is Joseph Short, and I've been a wheelchair user for 23 years now due to a spinal cord injury. I'm one of the numerous advocates from the Connecticut Wheelchair Repair Coalition that have been pushing to reduce wheelchair repair times for the past few years. Historically, wheelchair users, as you all know, had to wait months for even simple repairs from the two major wheelchair repair companies, National Seating and Mobility and New Motion. After an unprecedented amount of work from the Connecticut Wheelchair Repair Coalition, CRT professionals, and legislators, Connecticut PA 2458 was made into law in July of 2024. This legislation required authorized wheelchair dealers to make repairs within 10 business days, excluding the time spent waiting for authorizations and parts to be delivered. This bill is also responsible for a compliance hotline managed by the Office of Healthcare Advocate and established a CRT Wheelchair Advisory Council for stakeholders to meet with industry and monitor the repairs of wheelchairs with monthly data, addressing complaints received from OHA and recommending strategies to improve repair times. Although the repair times have slightly improved in the past couple years, additional protections are needed to mandate wheelchair providers to inform their customers about the current law, including the 10-day requirement, their right for an in-home assessment or repair, and how to file a complaint with OHA. Additionally, they need to be held accountable for providing accurate data regarding wheelchair repairs. Unfortunately, there are still some repairs taking months, such as Gary, who's been stuck in the same uncomfortable position for 7 months because his power wheelchair needs a tilt actuator repaired. Or Mary, who's been waiting months for her foot plate to get repaired, which resulted in additional injuries to her feet. We shouldn't have to be subjected to preventable injuries because of long repair times. New Motion continues to actively deceive their customers to come for in-shop repairs. Take Karen, for example, who was unaware of her rights for an in-home repair and had to wait over 5 months for her son's wheelchair to finally get fixed. The tires were worn out, the brakes weren't working, and he needed straps holding him upright to be replaced. It was difficult and unsafe for him to travel with his wheelchair in this condition, but he was forced to because of in-shop repairs were the only option offered, and unfortunately they were unaware of the right for in-home repairs. Any progress to improve the bill last year was dismantled by big business and lobbyists to protect their own interest and instead of the rights and livelihood of wheelchair users here in Connecticut, unfortunately. Remember, New Motion and National Seating Mobility are the two private equity-backed companies controlling a significant portion of the wheelchair supply and wheelchair industry throughout the United States. These are huge companies. Thankfully, they have made some improvements to reduce waiting times, especially National Seating and Mobility. But their number one goal is to still increase profits rather than the quality of life of the people they serve. So make your voices heard that wheelchair users shouldn't be overlooked anymore, and we should no longer be left without working equipment for any longer than absolutely necessary. Sorry to go on for a little while longer than necessary there.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe Short. Next, we have Walter Glom. He is the Executive Director of the Council of Developmental Disability, and he is going to speak about the DDS waiver and discrimination with IQ levels. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Again, my name is Walter Glom. I'm the Executive Director of the Connecticut Council on Developmental Disabilities. The Council works to improve home and community-based services for people with developmental disabilities in Connecticut so they can live in their communities, in their own homes, and contribute to our communities instead of being served in a congregate nursing home or congregate facility. First, before I talk about the eligibility thing, I just want to congratulate Maryann and the team on creating the ADAPT chapter here in Connecticut. As the council does most of its work through grants to third-party nonprofit and educational organizations. So it's important to us that we have organized groups like this that can speak for the community, inform us about people's needs, and do the work in the community with the funding that we provide. So again, Maryann, thank you and congratulations. I'm really glad to be here. Now, I look forward to working with ADAPT. In the meantime, the council is asking for legislation to change some of the eligibility criteria for home and community-based Medicaid waiver services in Connecticut. Connecticut provides these services through Medicaid through 10 different HCBS waivers, each with its own peculiar restrictive eligibility criteria that leave big gaps in between, so it doesn't serve everybody. Other states don't do it this way. This is something that we do. One of those waivers, in fact 3 of those waivers, are managed by the Department of Developmental Services, and there the exclusive criteria is IQ. If your IQ is 69 or lower, you can get this marvelous array of services. And I congratulate DDS and the Commissioner. It's a hard job, but they've actually got a great array of services. But if your IQ is 1 point over 69, SOL. Okay, you don't get anything. You can't get those services. And this is a real problem because many people in Connecticut, there are people with higher IQs that have the same needs or greater levels of needs than some people with lower IQs. IQ is a terrible metric. It does not correlate with need. So other states don't do this. In fact, only 2 other states in the country use IQ exclusively the way we do. So it's time that we catch up, we get away from this archaic measure and change our eligibility criteria to a functional definition of level of need. Give people who have the need the services they need, and don't rely on some proxy measure like IQ. So we're looking for that change. While we're talking about community first choice, I want to say that the one part of Medicaid that uses a functional definition for an inclusive definition for these services is community first choice. And if you look at other states, what they're doing is they're moving people off their waivers onto community first choice. We're going backwards. What we're doing is regressive. Okay? Community first choice, in my mind, is the model for how things ought to work. So there again, that's a great program. We ought to be building it, strengthening it, and expanding it, not cutting it back, because it's the one program that doesn't have these huge gaps, cracks, chasms between eligibility silos that are leaving people out. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Walter Glom. And I'm going to hand the floor back over to Representative Mike D'Amico.
Thanks, Maureen. Melissa, I think you're up next, actually. So,
Sorry
is
about
that okay? Yeah. So we only have 2 speakers left. We have Melissa Taylor, and then you're going to hear from me for about 30 seconds. And it won't be long, but it will be loud. So here's Melissa.
Good afternoon.
Melissa, speak right into my phone, nice and loud.
Good afternoon. My name is Melissa Taylor, and I'm a Connecticut Partners in Policymaking Advocate. I've served on the SILC, and I've served on the State Rehabilitative Council, and I've also done a lot of work with Connecticut Bend and Yukon. And I have to believe in something. I have to care about myself and my friends. Rolled back or never submitted legislative protections give permission for systems to fail, for people to brush aside concerns, and then to claim they never thought it could be this bad. The marginalized know. People whose lives have been historically harder than a white middle-class man, we know that of course it can be this bad. But isn't it illegal to tell the truth now? And so I have to pretend that I have as many opportunities as a neurotypical person with a driver's license and comparable education. And without depression, the slashing of DEI departments, education budgets, and the obliteration of necessary language all suggest that I don't matter. But my friends and I matter. There will always be more pressing issues and a tendency to brush us aside. I know that the larger society waves a dismissive hand at our suffering, saying everyone goes through things and life's not fair. I know that our turn for consideration for our needs will never come unless we fight for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Can I say a couple quick words? Thank you. Thank you, Melissa, for those inspiring words. Again, it won't be long, but it will be loud. Here's the deal. So, back in 1989, I'm a student of history, so I'm going to take you back a little bit in time. Back in 1989, President George Herbert Walker Bush, remember George Bush the Elder? George Herbert Walker Bush told us in one of his speeches that we have the will, but unfortunately we don't have the wallet. So I am here to challenge my colleagues and all of you, but particularly my colleagues and the governor. We have the wallet. The question is, do we have the will? Do we have the will to make sure that supportive decision-making is enacted here in Connecticut? Do we have the will to say no to eliminating community first choice? Do we have the will to make sure that accessible medical equipment is available in doctor's offices and in hospital settings? Do we have the will to insist and to demand that medical lifts are available for all those who need them? Do we have the will to mandate that affordable housing construction takes into consideration the needs of people with disabilities to make sure that they're accessible for all? Do we have the will to end the discrimination that exists in Husky C? Do we have the will to make sure that wheelchair repair companies do their job and make sure that they take care of us in a timely fashion? Do we have the will to make sure that people with intellectual disabilities are not denied services that they need and deserve because of some artificial numerical standard that virtually every other state in the country did away with a long time ago? We have the wallet, we need the will, and we need all of you to press your legislators, press the governor to do what is right to make sure that the will of all of us is enacted. So thank you for being here. was longer than it should have been. I'm going to turn it back over to Maureen.
Good job.
Thank you so much, Representative D'Amico. This wraps up the press conference. Thank you so much for everyone who came. Thank you, press, because we really are relying on you to get the word out about our struggles and especially about community first choice, so I thank you. And I believe that we're going to try to get a group picture, so if people who are able to stay... do we have any questions?
Yeah. And group is needed.
A little room is needed for the picture. Is that what you said, Maryann?
Not a little group is welcome to march to the governor.
Okay, so we're going to try to get a group to march over to the governor's office. So I guess no picture.
All we are asking for is a appointment with him.
Okay, so we, whoever is able to march with us over to the governor's office, we're going to ask him for an appointment to meet with him to discuss community first choice.
Thank you.
Thank you.